Now look, I am sure that Becky Lynch is happy with her overall lot when it comes to WWE. I mean, over the last 12 months or so, she has transformed her career, become one of the most popular and one of the most needed people in that entire promotion, and she's leading the women's division. But it's that last sentence, or that last bit of the sentence, that we need to focus on. This tweet appeared on her feed the other day, and if you are listening to this video as opposed to watching it, it basically says, "So proud to be the longest reigning Raw champion in history, really pleased to be in the tag division right now." Alongside this was a gif of Becky Lynch nodding sarcastically, and I think we can only take that one way. And if she didn't mean it, well, more fool her. So, maybe Becky Lynch right now in this little pocket is not massively happy with WWE. Why? Here's why. I guess the first thing we should talk about is the double standard. Now, when she first became the man, the push for Becky Lynch was pretty obvious as she skyrocketed to the top of the card. But over the last few weeks, I think a few eyebrows have been raised, and that tag team division quip sums it up very nicely. Why is the Raw Women's Champion, who sells loads of merchandise, probably puts a lot of butts in seats and gets incredible reactions when she is in front of a live crowd, mucking around in the tag team division? Now, I know Survivor Series was a little bit different, but all the rules go out the window when we get to Survivor Series, and we have to do brand versus brand versus brand. I mean, we even had an NXT Championship match slapped in the middle of that card, so you can't really account for that when it comes to the overall picture. But it is not something we would have done for, you know what's coming, The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin, so why are we doing it now? And in fact, if you look at the Rattlesnake or the Great One, every time they were put into the tag team division or became a tag team champion, it was to push other feuds that they were in. Do you remember, for example, when Austin, the Rattlesnake, won the tag team championships with The Undertaker? That happened at Fully Loaded 1998. I'm a wrestling geek, I remember this. And do you know what the next pay-per-view was? It was Breakdown a month later, and that said pay-per-view, The Undertaker, okay, beat Stone Cold Steve Austin for the World Wrestling Federation Championship. So you see, they were the tag champions, but the only reason that existed was to fix this. It was a detour, it wasn't the focus. And while at one point you probably could have said, oh, that's just what they're doing with Becky Lynch, we are well past that point now. And also, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, why is Lynch teaming up with Charlotte Flair to take on the Kabuki Warriors? No one, to this day, has explained that to me. And Lynch must think the same. Why else would she do that tweet? She's probably like, excuse me, powers that be, where is my feud? Where is my singles match? You do know I have a singles championship, and yet while it's over my shoulder, it's actually never being defended. And look, it does rock that she is the longest reigning Raw Women's Champions in history. What an accolade to have. But before long, that kind of falls into Curtis Axel at the Royal Rumble 2015. He still hasn't been eliminated from that thing. And we are almost 5 years later. That is a record that will never be beaten. You can take your Undertaker streak and shove it up your ass. I am more interested in Curtis Axel's never-ending Royal Rumble run. It does seem then that WWE is playing a little bit fast and loose when it comes to Becky Lynch, as opposed to, doing the basics of pushing her as a massive single star. Because let's also not forget, in the summer of 2019, she was put in a somewhat awkward pairing with Seth Rollins just because their real-life relationship broke on the internet, and management went, well, if the internet loves it and reality loves it, we should put it into the fictional story. So they did. It just didn't really work though, and you could see not everybody was entirely comfortable with it, which is also something Becky Lynch said in an interview a few months ago. WWE must have come to that conclusion too, because do not forget what the ending of all of that was. It just vanished into dust. Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans stopped talking, Becky Lynch went one way, and Seth Rollins went another. In fact, it was so, I guess, cringy, that's a bit harsh, but it was so cringy, it's the word I've decided to introduce to this conversation, it probably contributed to the reactions that Seth Rollins is getting right now. Don't know why I'm holding my wrist. Thankfully, we may be on the cusp of all of this changing. There is no way in hell that Becky Lynch attacked Shayna Baszler at the end of Survivor Series just for something to do. I know that stuff just happens, but I think we have more of a plan here. And hey, you may have even seen that play out by the time you watch this video, because I've got a sneaking suspicion that the man is going to turn up NXT again and go after the NXT Women's Champ. She won't be able to do it entirely, which will kickstart a feud, and when you get to that point, you have two very distinct options. And the first is your build to WrestleMania 36. Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler in a proper grudge match. It ends with the man standing tall, but the other option, of course, includes Ronda Rousey. If WWE has convinced the former UFC champ to come back to the squared circle, then hey, that gives you even more things to do. You can do Shayna Baszler versus Becky Lynch at the Royal Rumble, then Ronda Rousey can somehow get involved in that, and when you get to the show of shows, you do Ronda versus Becky too, and who doesn't want to see that after WrestleMania 35 when, don't forget, Becky was the first person to actually pin Rousey's shoulders to the mat. And then, even then, you have even more options, because maybe you have Becky Lynch wins again, and it's like, oh my gosh, she's a superstar now, she just beat Rousey twice, or maybe you allow Ronda to get her W back. You can do all of this, and there's arguments all around. And when you can debate it both ways, it usually means you are in line for a great wrestling program, because it will also spark social media into like, you have the Ronda Rousey fans saying, no, she's got to get her win back. You have the Becky Lynch fans saying, no, this is the time to like cement her as a proper star. Then everybody will start yelling at each other and using rude words, and you just close down your browser because like, I can't handle it, and you burn your phone just to get rid of it. But hey, we're talking about the burning of things. Seth Rollins already come up. You can go burn it down with him. And if we do all of that, then what I'm talking about now is a moot point, but it does seem like Becky Lynch has realized this as well. I mean, The Fiend ain't running around with a tag team partner, is he? And Brock Lesnar, he doesn't even come up to the shows. I bet if I did find him and say, Brock, would you like to team with someone on an upcoming episode of Raw? He would eat my intestines. So why should it be the same for the woman who is leading that division and in many ways is more popular than anybody else on the roster? What we should be doing is we should have opponents lined up till at least 2034. And that doesn't mean that you can't deviate from that. Like if you hear something in the crowd or somebody has a better concept, sure, go with that. But you should always be looking that far into the future, and you should be building a protective bubble around Becky Lynch, because clearly she's money. And no, this doesn't mean that she's going to leave WWE or she's about to go to AEW before you go nuts in the comments. She is beyond pivotal to the company, like a lot of other names that I've mentioned in this video, but that's the reason that we should be doing a better job. And if nothing else, please, for the love of everything, just stop teaming her with Charlotte. I mentioned it once, I will mention it twice. There is no logic there whatsoever. No logic hurts my brain. Although apparently this is already falling on deaf ears, because if you go out there, there's rumours there is an apparent card for TLC 2019, which goes down in December, and it is going to be Becky Lynch and Charlotte taking on the Kabuki Warriors, the tag team champions, in a TLC match. Now, why the hell you'd have that stipulation when I've already seen the Kabuki Warriors beat Becky and Charlotte, but what you're going to do? So really, all I want from this is this. Do whatever you want with Becky Lynch, but stop tagging her with Charlotte Flair. Thank you very much. Oh, also, actually, if you could tell me why Asuka and Kairi Sane turned heel, I'd like that too. Also, who raised the briefcase at the 1999 King of the Ring? I know it was insinuated that it was the Big Boss Man, but I never really got that. Who was behind GTV? Oh, and what was in Vince McMahon's lockbox? If you could just give me all that information, I'll give you a free pass with the Becky Lynch stuff. Just put on a postcard, Simon Miller, bald asshole, ups and downs, why, here's why. It'll get to me, postman knows, it will arrive at my door. Promise. Finally, I think it's essential to point out that it's all right not to be happy with your employer. Like, no one is going to be over the moon 100% of the time. That isn't realistic. So maybe right now, Becky Lynch is walking the corridors backstage being like, can I have some kind of program, please? Because she's shouting, assuming that nobody has heard her so far. And the evidence is there. I mean, apart from Shayna Baszler, again, which was tying into Survivor Series, she hasn't really done anything in singles competition, apart from all that nonsense with Asuka, which makes no sense. And if you want to figure out about that, just go read about it. It's all out there. It'll blow your brain. It'll just make you throw your hands in the air and go, oh my gosh, Simon was right. Stuff actually does just happen. There's no rhyme. There's no reason. There's no nice tune. Where's my nice tune? But I've gone off on a tangent because I'm getting mad about things. Let's move on to something else. Now, don't forget to comment below and let us know what you think about Becky Lynch. I know some people are going to be fired up, but that's okay. The Y Series is there to play devil's advocate and get you thinking and get you talking. Like, share, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. That's where you yell, you remember Twitter. And watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. And here's my list of dream opponents that I'd like to see Becky Lynch take on. Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler, absolute lock. I'm well into that one-on-one. Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey 2, again, writes itself. Becky Lynch versus Io Shirai. Io Shirai, probably one of the best workers in the whole company. That would rock. And yeah, I'd like to see Becky Lynch and us get in a proper one-on-one match. Becky Lynch versus Kairi Sane. Do you see the picture that I'm creating here? There are so many options, and yet we are going in the other direction. Turn the damn car around and come back to obvious lane. And hell, think of the push that we just got for Rhea Ripley. I would be down to see Ripley versus Lynch. In fact, I think Rhea Ripley has such a strong upside. If you wanted to do that at WrestleMania 36 and allow Rhea to win the Raw Women's Championship at the Showcase of the Immortals I wouldn't mind. And in fact, maybe I'd be so behind it, I'd even voice those opinions on Twitter. It's all about ignoring the status quo and shaking things up and being creative and being exciting. That does not mean put Becky Lynch in a tag team division when she is the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion ever. Use that. Push it. Sell it. Make me care. Make it feel important. I will see you soon.